mathematics to get these angles correct for the steering. Okay, I've got this demo here to try and explain the mathematics involved for when you've got a target that you're trying to drive a dynamic car towards. When the target is behind the vehicle, you've got to do a bit of extra mathematics. But first of all, let's just look at the kind of angles you're going to get when you measure the header angle of an object. Now, these angles are going to be in degrees because that's easier for people to understand. But obviously in the XPresso window, we're going to be dealing with radians. Okay, so when the target goes over to the left, you get a positive value on the header angle. Now that's just like the angle you have to use when you're driving a dynamic car. If you give the steering a positive angle, it goes to the left, and if you give the steering a negative angle, it steers to the right. Okay, so far so good, but what happens when this target gets behind the vehicle? Well, the way the header angle works is that it just carries on getting larger and larger. It goes to 180 when it's dead behind. Then it carries on all the way to 270, and then it flips over to -90. Now this kind of flipping behaviour is the kind of thing that we need to avoid in our programming and in our dynamic cars. We don't need anything jumping from a large positive value to a large negative value. But I've got a way to get around that anyway. But this business of the header angle, reading these values right up to 270, we can actually use this in our favour. Because when you think about it, the first thing we've got to do with our bit of programming here is we've got to detect when this target is behind the vehicle. Now the target is behind the vehicle when the header angle is greater than 90 degrees. So when the target is in either of these two quadrants behind the vehicle, the header angle is going to be greater than 90 degrees. So that's the first part of the little problem solved for us. We just say, is the angle greater than 90? If yes, do some maths. If no, don't do anything. Okay, that's the first part of the problem. The other thing is we've got to calculate some kind of sensible value for the steering. Because just say, for instance, the centre of the scene is behind the vehicle and to the left. We've got to generate a sensible steering angle so the car will turn to the left and then go and find the target. In a similar fashion, when the target, that is the centre of the scene, is behind a vehicle but to the right, we've got to generate the kind of steering angle which will make the car turn to the right and go and find the target, which is the centre of the scene, obviously. Okay, well, how do we do that? Well, I've got a solution now. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. It's pretty close. Here's my theory anyway. Let's say, for the sake of arguments, the target is here, and we are reading